Me 31F with my fiancé 33M fiancé best friend 33 have a weird relationship, driving me insane. Hi, I don't know how to approach the subject so that it doesn't sound like a rant. I have been in a steady relationship for the past 4 years. My boyfriend and I dated for about 15 months, then decided to move in together. It's been wonderful. Recently we got engaged and now are planning the wedding. We are both very excited about it. He is a great person, basically what you'd call a good guy, very bright, super funny, has a good job, has always been caring and loyal, kind of a dork and a nerd in some things which I love. I would say without a doubt that has the best guy I've ever been with. I love him and he loves me very much. My family and friends adore him. So far so good, right? Enter best friend Sandy. This girl is a total nightmare. They have been best friends like forever, and once I met her a few years back I knew she was bad news. She is very attractive and knows it, always dresses kind of slutty, is a tease and a flirt. If you know the type you can picture her. She has never been rude to me or anything like that. We just keep our distance. We are polite around each other and that's about it. She's not the idiot people think she is. She has 2 kids and recently got divorced. She has always been in his life, and I can't seem to understand why. I'm not naive or narrow-minded. I have male friends, and I'm the kind of person that believes that a man and a woman can be great friends without time being involved. However, the relationship they have is just too much, too close for comfort, and everyone seems to think so. And it has been going on like forever. There are so many things. I don't know where to begin without sounding like a crazy jealous person. The only thing that puts my mind at ease is the fact that she lives 1,000 miles away, in South Florida. She is always texting him. I've checked his phone a couple of times, he doesn't mind. We are very open with each other and I know I shouldn't, but still. She is constantly telling him she misses him, that they should see each other more often, that when is he coming home, that she wants to come up to see him, that a song reminded her of him, all sorts of stupid things, pictures, selfies, etc. Sometimes it's like a couple of 15-year-old kids, and I don't make a fuss about it. The one thing that really freaks me out is when she tells him she loves him. Love is a very strong emotion for me, and he says he loves her back. I don't like that part at all, and the fact that she's drunk dialed him a couple of times at very odd hours even when she was married makes me so mad. We've had a couple of strong disagreements about that over the years. I have met his family, they are very nice folks and they like me. His sister and I get along pretty good. We have a lot in common and we've become good friends even with the distance. The first time I met her she found out that best friend Sandy was coming to town, and didn't look happy. A couple of years later, after we knew each other better, I asked her why she didn't like her. She told me that she never did. Even when they were kids she didn't like her. That she was always trouble and did crazy things. That no one in her family liked her, but since she had always been there, they kind of just tolerated her and accepted her in the household. She shared with me that while they were pre-teens, she would always be at their house hanging out, and that she would stay at night and sneak into my fiancé room. Apparently their parents didn't know or didn't care. In high school she was always kind of a BTCH while my fiancé was kind of a nerd, and that she never understood how they remained friends. They didn't even hang around the same group of people. His first girlfriend always felt threatened by her. She wouldn't be the last one to feel that way. I knew all this because of what my fiancé's sister observed and told me. She's a couple of years older than him. I talked to him about it and he said it was true, no problem there. I have asked him a couple of times straight up if they ever had some kind of physical relationship in the past, but he has always denied it. He says they are only friends. When she was married, my fiancé was the best man at her wedding. At her insistence, her now ex-husband and kids would spend time together with us, going on holidays or meeting up for special occasions, and I must admit I got along better with her husband than with her. He was about 10 years our senior and always seemed oblivious about their weird relationship or just didn't mind. My fiancé is godparent to her youngest kid. They both call him uncle. He adores them and they adore him back. Has great with them and with his nephews. Has wonderful with kids, and I can't complain about it. A couple of times best friend Sandy's dad or other family members have been in town and they call him and have lunch together or just meet up. I can tell they're very fond of him and care a lot for my fiancé. Last year he flew down to Florida so that they could go to some convention because she got tickets that were hard to get. A couple of months ago I went with him to his parents' house. She showed up unannounced and they got drunk in his parents' living room watching stupid movies while I was sleeping. We got in huge fight because of it. His sister told me that they used to do that kind of stuff all the time and it just made me angrier. We all ended up having Christmas supper a couple of nights later with her and her kids in my future-in-law's house. It was not a happy moment. He doesn't even drink, just a beer every once in a while and wine with a good meal. This girl just brings the worst of him. I have met his friends and people close to him. One of his best male friend lives in a neighboring town with his wife. They all went to Florida State together and the three of them at one time shared an apartment. They are our closest friends. His wife has always told me that she can't stand best friend Sandy and straight out calls her a W or, so to the point. Now that you have an idea with what I've been dealing with. A couple of nights ago we were at our place with some other friends celebrating our recent engagement and setting the date. She told me that there was something I should know. It was about best friend Sandy. Like I said, I knew she didn't like her one bit, so I didn't think much of it at first. She told me she hated the fact that even though she didn't attend Florida State with them, she still managed to show up all the time. She would stay weeks at a time in my fiancé room, and that she ruined a couple of relationships for him, going so far as to punching one of my fiancé ex because she had cheated on him. The story was that they had plans to go for spring break, and since my fiancé was single at the time he took best friend Sandy. I told her I knew all this. Now the part that I didn't know but she felt I should, was that they had been drinking all week. No surprises there. One morning she walked into their room and they were both naked with another couple in there as well. I asked her naked like with underwear or with something covering themselves and she said no. Completely naked. She didn't see them having time, but two girls and two guys naked in a room makes you think, what the hell was going on? All this was before I met him, and I know everyone has a past, but that really shook me. Every time I hear one of those stories it gets to me. This one was over the top. Have I been blind all these years? I've been honest about my feelings and confronted him about other things, but not about this. He usually just laughs and brushes it off, saying that it was nothing, and keeps on insisting that they have only been friends, very good friends, and that nothing has been going on or ever will. I have an older sister and we are very close. I have told her about all this and we both agree that their relationship is too weird. It seems very unlikely for them not to have ever hooked up or been intimate, and now with this new information I have more doubts. We are making plans for our wedding. To make things worse, and I laugh and smile so I won't cry, best friend Sandy is going to be the best man, and already she's talking about planning his bachelor party and even a trip to Vegas. Redditor's reactions update after. Redditor 1, bottom line, this type of relationship wouldn't sit well with me. You can't be married to one person and telling someone else how much you love them. There needs to be boundaries. You need to talk with your fiancé about setting some. Shit is changing, you're getting married. Redditor follow up. You can't be married to one person and telling someone else how much you love them. She didn't say anything about them telling each other how much they love one another. She said they tell each other they love one another. The former would be the kind of thing you say to a romantic partner, I love you so much, baby. The latter is something you might say to a close friend, a family member, a child. But I will be sure and tell my husband that our 15 years together are now over because we each tell our best friends' exes that we love them all the time. And apparently, we can't do that and be married. Redditor 2, I'm sorry, but I literally cannot read this. There are no periods, just run-on sentences that make a paragraph. Redditor 3, Sandy sounds rather wild, but I don't see anything that would indicate she's any kind of threat. Your fiancé has had practically his entire life to get with her if that's what he wanted. And he hasn't. She has likewise had the same opportunity and hasn't. I don't see them suddenly discovering a hidden passion and desperation for each other at this late date. My sister says that I should make him stop being friends with her after we get married. Your sister has some interesting idea about what marriage is and is not. Want to know what marriage is not? It's not ownership. And it does not suddenly grant you the right to tell your husband who he can and cannot be friends with. You simply don't have that right, not even as a wife. You especially don't get to tell him he has to cut off a friendship with the mother of his godchildren. That's really not okay. What you can do is discuss any concerns you have with him, and set some boundaries together regarding his interactions with her. Your fiancé is marrying you, not her. After all these years, he's more than had opportunity to make something happen with her, and he's chosen not to. Instead, he's chosen you as the woman he wants to spend his life with. She's not a threat. And if you let your jealousy or insecurities rule the day when it comes to her, you're going to end up damaging your own relationship over nothing. That would be a damn shame. Redditor follow-up. So you don't think Sandy could duck up this marriage? Of course she could, and you know it. I'm sure Sandy just loves being Scarlett O'Hara and having all the boys on a string. Sandy doesn't care about anybody but Sandy, and she'll be part of the marriage because that's what she wants. Update, me 31F with my fiancé 33M fiancé best friend 33F have a weird relationship, driving me insane. First part. Hi, thank you all for your comments and advice. Some of them were really helpful. I just wish I would have paid more attention to them instead of blindly rushing into things. I confronted my fiancé calmly one night while we were out for dinner. I told him I didn't want Sandy to be the best man at our wedding. I didn't want her to plan his bachelor party, and most important, I didn't want her in our life anymore. Of course, that he could still keep in touch with his godson, but to limit all contact to that. It didn't go well. At first he thought I was joking. When I told him I wasn't, he said he couldn't believe it. He told me that he had always been truthful and honest with me from day one, and that he never lied about their friendship, try to hide it or downplay it. That he couldn't understand after all this time why I was bringing it out now. We argued some more. It didn't get heated, just an argument. We left it like that, agreeing to nothing. The next day I asked him what he thought about the conversation we had the night before. He said I was overreacting, that he couldn't understand why I was being so obtuse about it. I told him things were going to change, that we were getting married. He told me things shouldn't change, especially since we had been living together for some years, and happily, he added. It kept on going back and forth for a while. He basically dismissed it and said I wasn't thinking straight. He jokingly called me a bridezilla. That really made me mad. A couple of days later, I gave him an ultimatum. I told him I didn't want Sandy as the best man, and I didn't want her in our lives anymore. My now ex-fiancé has always been a calm person. I, on the other hand, have been more emotional and impulsive. He told me to think about what I was asking him. She wasn't part of our life, she was part of his life, and that indeed sometimes lines had been crossed. Even though he didn't see it that way, he respected my point of view. However, he was willing to make some changes, no bachelor party, and would try to ease down on the contact. But that was it. That he wasn't changing her as best man, she was his best friend, had always been, and that nothing I or anyone could say or do would change that fact. He said that I knew him, and that he wasn't a kid who reacted the way I did. He pointed out that I knew he was a reasonable and understanding guy, but that it was unfair to put him in this situation. He said that I was emotional and to reconsider, and give it a couple of days to cool off. I yelled at him and told him to choose. He didn't say anything. He slept on the couch. We didn't speak for about 2 days. It was the weekend and he told me he wanted to talk to me. I agreed. He asked me what my thoughts were. I told him I hadn't changed my mind. He asked me if I was 100% sure about it. I said I was. That my mind was set. No Sandy Bestman, no bachelor party organized by her, and no contact. He just said, okay. Then it's over, called the wedding off. I almost had a heart attack. I was furious and heartbroken. I got very agitated. I told him I couldn't believe he picked her over me. He said he didn't, that he had picked himself, that if I couldn't accept him the way he was, as I had always done in the past, and couldn't trust or believe him, it was over. That he had always trusted me and that if I couldn't do the same it wasn't worth the trouble. I yelled at him some more and told him I knew about the time they went on spring break together. He told me they had vacation tons of times together, as a matter of fact still did, that I knew all this. I asked him, well, what about the time you were naked together in a room with another couple? He told me all I had to do was ask him and not create this drama. This made me madder. He told me he had always been honest with me, and still was, that he didn't have anything to hide. That it was probably XXXXX who had told me. I said it was. We calmed down a little. He asked me if I wanted to know. I told him I did. He said it was true, that they had been indeed naked together in the room, when XXXXX walked in. They had met a slightly older married couple on the first day there. After some drinks, some partying and spending time together, they suggested a swap, exchange couples. They were attractive, and he said sparks were flaring, also that it was during a time when they were both single, young and wanted to experiment. So they had time in the same room. I told him, so you had an orgy? He said no, that it wasn't an OG, he had time with the girl and Sandy with the guy. But that him and Sandy never had time. I told him, so you expect me to believe you were naked with her in the same room, in the same bed while she had time with this strange guy, and you had with his wife and you two didn't do it? He said exactly. I told him I didn't believe him. He said that was on me, it was the truth, he had no reason to lie about it. He had never lied to me before and wasn't about to. And also that this had happened over 10 years ago, before I met him, and that whatever had happened it didn't matter because it was the past. I told him I wanted him out. He said he would leave the next day. Before he left he told me he loved me and that I was wrong and making a mistake. He told me that I knew him and that if he walked out the door I would never see him again. I wished him well and that I wasn't changing my mind, that he had chosen her and that he was a liar. He told me to keep everything and that he would come when I was at work for his things. I haven't seen him since. Those first days were bad. I felt terrible. I spoke with my sister and she said I had screwed up, big time. Now she tells me, I was still angry and felt righteous. I am pretty stubborn. I sent Sandy terrible text messages, telling her she was a W and that I hoped she was happy for ruining my life. She never replied. Not one of my proudest moments. He came back while I was at work and picked up his things, his clothing, books, toys and stuff. He left everything else, even some stuff I had given him as gifts over the years. He left the key. I lost it. I couldn't believe he would go through with it and just end it all. We are adults, for God's sake. I called him, texted him, emailed him, got no answer. I called his work and they told me he was unavailable. I called his sister, who I considered my friend, and she said she didn't want to get involved. I haven't stopped crying. I went to my sister's and told her everything. Now she's claiming that I overreacted, that I took something small and blew it out of proportions, that he was a good guy and that I shouldn't have put him in that position. I told her she was the one who advised me to give him an ultimatum. Now she claims I misunderstood her. Gee, thank you, sis. My mom is also aware. She agreed with my sister and told me I had screwed up, however that it was my decision and they both supported me. My sister said I would never find a guy like him. I was so angry at her, mostly because she is right. I have had time to think about all this, and I have been hurting bad. I think maybe I made a mistake. I think I acted impulsively and irrational. I hate to admit it, but I was jealous, envious and insecure of what they had. Some things are true, like one of the reply here said, they have had all their lives to be together, why haven't they? If Sandy really wanted to ruin our relationship, she could have done it a long time ago. This is on me. And also, like one of the other persons who kindly commented said, after rereading it and paying attention, she was never rude to me or disrespectful, she kept her distance and never invaded my space. She had done nothing. The only time she was not polite was once when her kids were misbehaving and I yelled at her for it. She got mad and said they were children after all. I think I was a BTCH about it and deserved it. I never apologized about it. Also, I was too judgmental and let myself be influenced about what other people said about her. The naked thing, even though it sounds improbable, might be true. He had never lied to me. On numerous occasions in all these years he answered my questions, even if they were stupid and petty. I just couldn't let it go. My sister points out, he could just not have told me. Pretend it never happened or simply deny it. Saying it was all a lie or a misunderstanding. I would never have to know, he chose to tell it to me. Every time, he was the best guy I have ever been with in my life, no doubt there. He always treated me right, was a real gentleman, never disrespected me in any way, never raised his voice, did small stupid things like open doors for me, pick me up at work, even when I didn't need it. He is smart and hardworking. He wasn't wealthy, but he took care of all the bills. At first we shared rent, later he took care of that on his own, without me asking, always said I should save up my wagers or spend it on myself. He was attentive and tolerant towards me even when I had one of my fits. I admit sometimes in the past I acted like a spoiled brat. He was the first person to never say it out loud or point it out to me. My life has gone to hell, and I can't help to think that it was my fault. Like my sister said, I made my bed, now I have to sleep in it. Redditors' reactions. Redditor 1, I'll take the downvotes, but I actually think your ex-fiancé dodged a bullet. The way you mismanaged your insecurities through this whole affair, the way you continually engaged in gossip behind his back rather than talking to him, the way you held his past against him, the way you fought with him like a child and in the same breath called yourself an adult. Man, Phew. I highly recommend talking with a therapist before you pursue another relationship. Redditor follow-up, I actually think your ex-fiancé dodged a bullet. Oh, definitely. Op is a judgmental you know what. Redditor 2, yes, maybe you overreacted and should have talked with him more and taken the compromise he offered, but you didn't. Stop trying to contact him or her. Get some therapy, maybe go to the gym, and grow up a little. I had to double-check your age, and WTH you're 31? Yikes. Give you both some time to think, and in a month or so you can maybe contact him. Maybe things will work out if you get couples therapy, or maybe you let a great guy slip away because you were being a brat, egged on by your sister. Who knows? But seriously, stop trying to contact either of them. That's not going to help. Redditor 3, we are adults for God's sake. You really aren't. He was open and honest. You chose not to believe him for you. I really don't doubt his swapping story. That happens more often than you'd think and kicked him out without a second thought. Your stubbornness got the better of you. Redditor follow-up, for you, I really don't doubt his swapping story. That happens more often than you'd think. Agreed. I can picture it now. Boyfriend and Sandy are having some drinks at the hotel bar. Swinger couple shows up and asks if they're interested. Boyfriend thinks hell, Sandy and I aren't actually a couple, but this couple doesn't know that and this could be fun. I'm single, and I am intrigued by the wife. Op sounds unbelievably insecure. I read the first post, and didn't really see anything inappropriate when it came to the friendship.